or they just don't laugh at my jokes. Yeah, exactly. And that was it. There you go.
The gang's all here. Gang's all here.
We're recording 2 days in a row, so like at least that has to count for something.
Yeah, I'm more tired today than I was yesterday too.
It's probably the weather. It's raining here.
It is raining.
It was pretty good. Like waking up this morning, I was like, oh, I don't want to get out of bed. It's so nice.
Yeah, I love falling asleep to the rain, but it's really hard to wake up to it.
I woke up at midnight this morning, like 12:30, and I got up out of bed and I was like, okay, let's do the podcast. And then I realized that it wasn't 12. Like I would have gotten ready and I would have like gotten and done stuff. Like I was so happy that I looked at my watch. Yeah, I was like, oh, it's 12:30. I don't really know why I wook up. Like I was pretty tired too.
Man.
Yeah, that's just my
that was
life
close,
story.
huh?
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk, guys.
There we go. Oh, I have a friend that actually I graduated with who got to do a TED Talk.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I ended up watching it. I don't remember exactly. I watched so many TED Talks that I don't remember exactly what he went on about. But it was just cool to know that like someone I actually like crossed the stage with in high school level went on and did a TED Talk. It was down in Miami.
Oh, like a TEDx talk or like a TED?
Probably a TEDx, I'm assuming.
TEDx is educational.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Just for all who don't know.
Talking about TED Talks and everything, we did a list from Chris Valentin yesterday. The first time I got to meet Chris Valentin, he was talking about a TED Talk by this lady, Brene Brown, and talking about the power of vulnerability. And this was like one of the most profound TED Talks I've heard. Like, I went through a season of like binging some TED Talks, and some of them were like, yeah, okay, whatever, like, like ancient Mongolian culture.
Yeah, some
it's like I mean, yeah, that's if that's your culture. I'm not knocking your culture, but it was like, okay, that was fine. But like when this lady spoke, she talked about some deep, profound things and being able to be secure in yourselves. And actually, I put that in the show notes somewhere about the TED Talk, somewhere early on that we never really touched upon that. But we'll have to look into that so that we can all talk about it.
I heard a while back that TED Talks, they're free to watch online, but like the ticket prices are like insane. They're like $100,000 for like a year that you could sit in on the TED Talks like at their HQ.
For a year. Oh,
yeah.
I was not just saying for a show. I was like, geez, what the?
No
way.
That was again one of those like internet facts. So I'm not sure how much that actually has like.
Yeah, but the internet never lies.
Yeah, but like either way, I think that the tickets are exuberant. Like to physically be in the studio while they're doing it.
You can pay me $10,000 to go watch a TED Talk.
Yeah. TED Talks are definitely a cool thing, though, especially at first. Now it's like there's so many TED Talks that it kind of got watered down a little bit, so I can't even watch them all.
Like I was saying,
there's so many.
Once I started following that vein, like some of them were like a stretch. They just got like anybody and everybody to just like talk on stage for 10 minutes.
I mean, they're not all gonna be amazing. The TED Talks that I really the TED Talks that started me down on the TED Talk rabbit hole was James Veitch. And his what happens when you respond to spam email.
Oh yeah. That was funny.
I didn't end up watching that. That sounds pretty good.
It's legit. It's hilarious. James Veitch in general is a funny guy, but again, not really a TED Talk. It's more of like a social experiment.
Yeah, fair enough.
Sometimes those TED Talks can get really like heavy stuff. Like there was one that I was watching for like neural networks and computer learning and stuff like that, and it's just like being able to be so good at your field that you can have like a 15-minute discussion and just continue to rattle off information that's a serious position to be in.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do some diligence. I'd really like to talk about that vulnerability to talk by Brene Brown. That really they actually changed my life. So I'm sure it would change everybody else's lives too. And it took me a while. Like I heard that, and then I had to hear. I had to go back and watch the TED Talk like probably like 3 times, and it was like, oh my god, like. What am I doing with my life right now?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely been a handful of videos that I've watched. Not necessarily all TED Talks, but definitely some videos I've watched where I was just like, it really like changed my perspective of thinking. So thank you for YouTube on that one.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely a lot of positive things that can come out of YouTube. Definitely a lot of wasted time, but.
I think that it's tough. It's like, well, TED is the organization makes very good videos. I think that like educational YouTube videos, there's like a wide range of quality, You know, and
What do you mean? Like my makeup tutorial is it's purely educational.
Not even stuff like that, but just like the quality of the video. Like you have like high end YouTubers who make really high quality content, and it's kind of like watching a TV series basically. But like, and then you have other like really low quality like videos. I'm not saying the content's the content is low quality, but like the medium that they're using is not as high quality.
Well, imagine that being your job. Like, say the studio like blew up, and that was our thing, and we like had to shoot an entire like season of like a YouTube TV show or anything, and we're out, and it's on that level where it's like, okay, legit budgets, legit cuts. It's not like, okay, well, here's some raw footage here, we throw some transitions in and call it a day. It's like, these people like they shot with a budget.
Yeah, and it's also like depending on who's making the content too. Is like, I know you were saying not to knock the content, but like it's interesting because a platform like that, maybe not TED Talks, but like a platform like YouTube, like anyone can go on there, anyone can say anything, anyone can be an expert, quote unquote. So it's it's a little dangerous, especially when you're on there looking for information and you don't know who the person is talking. So it's like credibility is huge. So definitely look into the person you're listening to before they actually start taking action on what they say.
Let me tell you about the history of the Western almond. Like, it's like that was that joke didn't sit well. That was an old joke. I'm sorry, that was a reference from something that don't no, but
no, I think we all got it.
Yeah. I forget actually where that joke's from, to be fair. Nonetheless, I'll do the research on that one. But the concept of the idea like that anybody can make any content is very dangerous now. Like you hear like, oh, the term that's been used as like fake news, I guess, would be like the common term that a lot of people use now, the coined term. But like that's like a real thing that people were having issues with back when Wikipedia started, where it was like when Wikipedia was editable by just anybody. The concept of like, oh, we can change this information, we can dynamically change how people see information. And that's a very dangerous thing, and not a lot of people, you get the clickbait Facebook title and you click it and you're like, it's like the tabloid magazine of the internet world has like now developed into this thing where no information is true.
There was a story that someone had told me. Like, she was at work and like it was two of her coworkers, and one of her coworkers, like, he had nothing else better to do one day, and he kind of just made it like he wrote out this fake article about cranberries and showed it to one of his coworkers, and she ended up reading it. And she believed it. And it was like, cranberries aren't good for you or something. And then like months go by, and this person was in a conversation with somebody else saying, no, don't eat cranberries. They're really bad for you. And they were like, what do you mean? Like, I read this article. And then she was like, right? And then the dude was just like, oh, you believe that? That was fake.
No, but that's legit. You can make something up, or I was talking about like quote unquote fake news and stuff. A lot of people want to push opinion and emotion as actual like legitimate empirical fact when it's not true.
Yeah.
And that's the level that we're at. And it's like, okay, now we're letting I mean, if you're talking about like political outrage and things like that, you're letting a very small amount of people, a minute portion of the population who gets offended, upset, or outraged for X, Y, and Z problem. We let that control everything about the rest of, I guess, the country or the world.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if this is getting lost. I'm just trying to.
It can definitely like get taken advantage of. You know what I mean? Especially by that smaller group. Like, it's one thing to do it as a satirical joke. It's another thing to do it to actually manipulate people.
Yeah,
and that's where it's like there's a fine line of like, it's just really easy to do that.
Well, that's the beauty of like good comedy. We talked about that thing with Steven Crowder. It's like, okay, well, like even if you make a little bit of like an insensitive joke or whatever, like the minute one person gets upset, then you can never make that joke again.
Yeah,
and it's like one person out of, say, the population of America would be like say not 4 billion. What's the population of America? Couple billion. But it's like, okay, well, you have less than 1% of the population who would get mad or upset or offended. It's like, okay, now you have to change everything about it.
There's a lot of complex that's going into a very complex realm, that statement. But if you stick to the concept of like information bias, where it's like, I don't know if anybody else did this in school, but we had this biology class where we wrote there was this article about dihydrogen monoxide and how dihydrogen monoxide was like this worst thing ever. And like we took a vote and he was all like, oh, who wants to ban this chemical? And it's water. And it's based off of the concept of like you can make people think something is bad just by using technical terms, and all of the facts in this paper were true. They were just spun in a way that sounded wrong.
Absolutely.
It's like, everybody who intakes dihydrogen monoxide dies. It's like basically what that
That's
translates to is everybody who drinks water dies. And it's like, yes, everybody who drinks water does die. Not right away, but eventually.
And not from water.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's like a lot of controversy there. But it's like that concept of, okay, how is somebody spinning this? And we had this conversation with the gatekeepers that was like, regardless of however you feel about Fox News or CNN or whoever, which way they spin the song, So it's like, okay, if you're singing the praises of this individual, I know that you're predisposed to sing the praises of this type of individual. So I'm going to take that with a grain of salt.
No, I think that's open to interpretation. As far as news goes, I'm okay with biased news as long as you're openly biased about your biases. And then it's like, okay, because it's supposed to be the fact and then interpreted through your bias, not pretending not to be biased and presenting biased facts.
Yeah, that's a very important detail where it's like we've shifted from the concept of this is the fact to this is my
biased fact.
Yeah. And that's a dangerous thing, and that's not just a political thing. That's an informational thing. That's a whatever,
Right.
And people have started looking at the world as tabloid magazine. Like they've disconnected that concept where it's like you go to the supermarket and you have the tabloid magazines that says that
Bigfoot married Elvis's sister-in-law.
Yeah.
It's like, clearly that's true.
Exactly. It's like, how many times have you read an article where it's like, Brad Pitt dies? Brad Pitt's died probably like 50 times according to these tabloid magazines. Yeah. And it's like these things don't happen. And it's like, why do we look at them as fake? Because we know that they're not reputable organizations. And yet we go on Facebook and we start spreading rumors because somebody wrote a fake article that looks kind of genuine.
Yeah, that's a huge difference because like a tabloid magazine used to be like on those, like on those newsstands that you should walk by and you go there for a newspaper and then there's 700 options of tabloids and it's like each one of them has a different headline.
Yeah.
But now it's like that's your Facebook newsfeed. You know what I mean? Just scrolling down, and it's like it's really hard to find the one actual real tangible one versus the 700 tabloids that are just flooded in between.
So I think. Oh no, go ahead.
I like commentary pieces, and there's a website called The Onion that is a commentary piece,
but it's satirical. Obviously.
It's a satirical commentary. It's basically like a joke on modern news networks where they try to make up the most outrageous possible story that they can. And very lately they've been doing like it's not The Onion thing with like they've been pulling up these news articles that are titled like Onion articles, and Onion's like no, that's not us, like that's legit. It's funny. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, you gotta have a sense of humor to be able to digest that though, because I'm pretty sure people have read like Onion articles or like Babylon Bee articles and be like, that's absolutely true. Yeah. It's like, no, they're not even close, bro.
Yeah, you can't. You gotta look into your resources. You can't just go write a 10-page paper on false resources.
Look with your eyes.
Yeah, my brand.
and I think this goes to the concept of like the trusting everything on the internet, where it's all like I think that our generation, like our generations, I guess plural, would be like more apt to say, oh, that's probably not legit. Like you see a Facebook post and it's all like, oh, XYZ did this thing, like Brad Pitt stabs his wife. Like it's like that's probably not what happened.
Yeah.
Like, and then
we were talking about it the other day. Like if you get an email saying that you're gonna receive like $30,000 bajillion dollars, like all you need to do is send me your credit card information. Like don't do it. It's like of course anybody who grew up in the internet age is like, This is crazy.
Yeah, I'm glad y'all mentioned that because it's like this is a big difference. Because if you grow up in the internet age like we did, and anyone before us, I mean after us, but people before us where they kind of like grew in, like they kind of adopted it as we go along. They definitely are much more prone. Like they are the target audience of this.
I mean,
like,
think about the old
scamming
people
world.
who get phone calls all the time at home. It's like, I have your grandchildren kidnapped. Like, pay me all of your IRS money
It's like,
because I'm
good.
in the FBI. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I need to do this, little Jimmy. and any of us would be like, yeah, bro, like
Keep 'em.
pound tar, like,
Bro, I'm texting him right now.
Yeah. It's like
or even so, yeah, it's like keep the kid. We can make another one.
it's all like that's not worth my $8,000 check, bro. It's all like, but it's so true, and it's sad, and it's like the concept. We have a friend who clicked on one of those like free phone ads or whatever it was, and it's all like that's not like most people wouldn't fall into that thing. Like our generation wouldn't fall into it.
Right, free iPhone X with subscription. Oh,
Yeah.
like yeah, okay, thank
It's
you.
like no, and the thing is that the internet is not governed. The internet is not. There has no guidelines. You can put whatever you want on the internet. The FBI might knock on your door, but you could theoretically put whatever you want on the internet. And it's like nobody's there to hold your hand and walk you through it. And so when you see an outrageous article that says that Brad Pitt stabbed somebody, the chances are that he probably didn't. And if he did, you'd probably hear about it on a lot more places than just your Facebook feed.
Oh, hey, you want to give us two extra minutes on here? I got a story just so that we don't have to bring this into the next block.
Then you could just
So I was watching this video. I don't remember where it was, but it was this kid, and he's our age, and we talk about how the internet's the Wild West. Especially when we were growing up, it was like super the Wild West.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
saying like the first time I ever saw somebody get their head like legitimately cut off was like probably like 12 years old.
Okay.
And I actively sought like to watch beheading videos. 'Cause yeah, that's my psychological profile in a nutshell. But this kid, he was like, yeah, you know, when AOL chat rooms and everything first started opening or whatever, he's like, oh, I had like this digital girlfriend, and I mean, I was only like 12, 13 years old, and I was sexting her, and I was real creative, and I was getting real colorful, and I guess they had this conversation for like 4 or 5 months, and all of a sudden she stopped talking to him. And I mean, he was like, I was going in, like we were legit. And then one day it stops, and then like a day or two later, I guess like the FBI comes and like knocks on his door because his dad had the computer at the time, and this kid would go into like his dad's like office, so they kind of knew like it was like some kind of like corporate thing. They thought it was the dad, like sex, like I guess it was somebody like undercover,
nice.
like
Yeah. Oh,
as the
okay.
girl, yeah,
Oh,
like
okay.
as like a 14-year-old girl or whatever,
Oh,
and they
okay.
thought it was the dad who was doing all these things. So they had all the printouts of the emails, and they sat down as a family with the FBI.
no.
And he was like, "Yes, that was my demise and my most proud moment at all times." And it was all on display for my parents about like, I'm gonna cover you in chocolate syrup and do all these things to you. It was like, oh. Wow. But yeah, I mean, it was perfectly legit. Like, I mean, besides the FBI showing up, like, there was nothing wrong with it.
You know, there's a quote about that. It's all like the internet, where the guys are guys, the women are guys, and the children are FBI agents.
And on that note, we'll be back with a real topic. Stay tuned.
We would like to thank Anchor for sponsoring and hosting the Life podcast. So who are Anchor and what do they do? Anchor is the all-in-one platform that gives you everything you need to make and publish your podcast. And best of all, it's all free. Anchor allows you to use their creative tools to record and edit your podcast. No need for any fancy professional equipment. Sounds amazing, right? And we haven't even gotten to the best part. Anchor isn't just a recording and editing platform. They're a publisher too. This means that Anchor takes care of all of the hard stuff, like publishing to Apple and Google Podcasts, so you don't have to. So what are you waiting for? Download the Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started. Another thanks to Anchor for hosting, publishing, and sponsoring the Life podcast.
And we're back. Was that the first time we ever did that? And we're back.
I don't know.
I think so.
Probably not.
Nah, maybe.
We didn't even intro today, so. Do you?
Welcome to the Life Podcast.
It's the second time we've
I'm
done
Eric.
the second
We're
section.
here with Benji.
Hello.
Tyler.
Yo.
It would be awkward if like that was your first episode and you heard the end of that first.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I said last time we did this. It was like, oh, somebody's going to think we cut it wrong, and they're going to send us an email. And now we did it again. I say we do the intro at the end of an episode one day. Just like,
you know what? Right before we end, that'll be good.
yeah.
We can do it again today.
There you go. Yeah, we'll do an intro on the end of the episode. So Eric, this is your topic today. So go ahead.
Yeah, this is a topic it came to me a while ago. We just never were able to touch on it. But it's a concept of understanding helping somebody versus getting taken advantage of. It's very easy to want to do the right thing and not necessarily see when you're being taken advantage of and letting it go too far, and then it gets to a point where sometimes friendships get destroyed, or things just that weren't anticipated because you were just trying to be a good friend or trying to be a good person, but you end up getting hit really hard if you're not aware. And so that was one of the topics that I put in there for a while ago, and we would never really touched on. But I think it's important for people to really understand not to be a doormat and not to let people like continuously, especially if things are like repeating. You know what I mean? Like the same things happening over and over and over again, and you keep letting them happen. You end up really it affects you in negative ways in the long run, and even in the short term. I think it really does.
So step one, I think that to break this down, the important part is to state that a relationship is a give and a take. Because if it's not, it becomes an expense to one person. An expense socially, an expense mentally, and an expense emotionally. We use these terms because they're the easiest way to explain them, but it's unfortunate if you're in a relationship with somebody, a friendship, a romantic relationship, a family relationship, whatever. If somebody is giving more than the other person and they're not receiving anything or a minute portion compared to what they're giving in, then it's an expense-based relationship and it's not healthy.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember, like you said, like a family relationship, friendship relationship, these are all relationships. All relationships are made of the same thing. The only thing that makes it differ between a girlfriend relationship and a friend relationship is the intimacy parts. But the actual concepts of
the same.
Yeah, they're all the same. So you have to understand that if you get into a friendship with somebody and that person just gives the world to you, and they just always keep on giving you things, and you just take those things, but you don't offer anything in return. You are not giving to this relationship. That person, you are taking advantage of that person. You're taking more away than you are providing back. Think of it as like you're going to the store, and people in the store is just, you're getting things from the store, but you're not paying for them. And now you're stealing. You know what I mean? So it's really important to remember that you have to give just as much as you take, or at least come close.
What do you mean, Eric? I paid for it. Like I have $300 worth of groceries. I'll give you like $29.50 for it.
But I got these coupons.
Yeah, right. Isn't that how it works?
Yeah. It's a tough situation because a lot of people don't see it happening, and of course there's this is not like, you don't look at things like in the moment. So like you can't look at this right now and say at this moment this person is giving more than the other person, because there's not going to be a relationship where everybody's giving equal amounts at every specific moment in time. But you have to take an average over a span of time. So you say, I've known this person for 4 years. How many times has this person started a conversation with me? How many times have I started a conversation with this person? How many times do I reach out? How many times do they reach out? And you have to you make a conscious decision, because it's like, when it's not a relationship, when it's not really a friendship, and you're just like trying to create something with somebody.
I think it's like, oh, my fault.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, especially if you're younger and you're just fresh out of high school. I tell you, like all these friends that you have in high school, 98% of them you probably won't talk to after high school. So keep that in mind. And I know if you're in it right now, you're like, no, I'm gonna have my friends forever.
Give it 2 years. Give it 3 years. You'll see.
Yeah, exactly. And it definitely just like, it's just a matter of you guys are always there every day, so you're forced to have these conversations. But as soon as you don't have that situation where you guys come together like that, people fall apart, and not fall apart, but they live their lives.
Yeah.
And so it's important to remember, like, when you're coming into this, you can't treat everything like it's high school, as you're growing up, because then like you'll have friends that, well, quote unquote friends, that end up taking advantage of you without you even realizing it until it's too late. And they don't do it on purpose.
Absolutely. And also, nobody's entitled to friends. This concept is all like, there's a proverb that says this, that it's like, if you want friends, be friendly. Like that's such a core concept. It's like, that's like a grade school concept. It's like, you can't steal someone's toys and expect them to like you.
Yeah.
That sounds so dumb because we're talking to adults here. But how many adults are like, give me this thing, take, I.
Think about Proverbs too. The leech has two daughters. Give.
Absolutely. And it's like, it's like, what are you doing? It's like, if you look at every person in your relationship as in, what can you do for me? You're not going to have any real relationships. You're going to have a business agreements.
Yeah. And that's actually, that's really accurate. And then you could break that down in anything. You know, if you're in a romantic relationship with somebody, and you're the only person that provides for this relationship, you feel it. You know what I mean? You feel like you're drained.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? But when you're in that first, lustful, what do they call it? Honeymoon stage? When you're in that moment, like, you're just so you get love blind. It's
like
exactly.
it doesn't matter. You can have red flags up and down, left and right, and it's like,
you don't even see
keep going.
Yeah, you don't even see it. Like,
watch out, there's construction ahead. I'm gonna just cook it.
Yeah.
What do you mean? 90? Like, I don't see any construction.
There's another side to the construction. If we just drive through it, we'll make it through. And
Fast and Furious, baby.
And going with that concept, you get drained so quickly because after that that honeymoon stage will fade out, and once it fades out, you're in the middle of a construction zone. You know what I mean? And now, how do you get out of this? And you can't. And it's just now it's like you spend 2 hours with them, and you leave like you've spent like the last 3 weeks with them, and you don't even know who you are by the end of it.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Let's grab onto love a little bit. A love relationship, love isn't selfish, and love is really kind, and love likes to give. If you have a love relationship, this mutual give and take, it has to be give out on both sides, and then just be willing to receive when it's given too. Like it's not like, oh well, this person makes me feel whole, they make me feel complete, they make me do all these things. If you have somebody talking to you like that, there are clear evidences and problems of they are, like, how do I say this appropriately, phrase it the right way.
They have a lack of self-love.
Yeah, there's a need that they're looking for you to meet.
Yeah.
When it's like, oh well, that's impossible. You need two complete people to be able to unselfishly give out in the relationship so that it continues to work.
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. Lack of self-love is something that is like rampant in in this growing generation right now, because of I think this is completely perspective and opinion, but I think it's because of like how heavy we rely on online interaction,
fake news,
and not having having face-to-face interactions with people. You don't really understand the concepts, so that when you first of all, when you do talk to somebody, you easily get offended because you're not used to the facial interaction of people.
Yep.
And the other side of it is you don't really there's a level of communication that you never experience if you just talk online,
right? And you create your own reality. You can like through text, there's a lot of room for things to be inferred, and you can be perceiving things that aren't necessarily true because we were talking about it on the show. It's like there's so much inferred, like Benji said, it's like body language itself, or really like inflection when you use your voice. Your voice is more dynamic than something on a page, unless you're like relaying empirical data. It's like, oh, there's a lot of room for fluctuation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I don't care how many emojis you use.
especially if you're not following the predefined rules. But even the rule, like 90, like there's so much, like at least,
right? It's so loose too.
Yeah.
It's like for some people, like K is like okay, and other times K is like the biggest middle finger in the face of the planet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like at least half of social interaction is body language. At least half.
Oh,
and it's like
least.
you're removing half of the product from the equation.
Hey, you ever see you see that meme that's like when you're talking to a girl, like you have okay, like means okay, K means friend, okay, K is like, oh, I think I like you, and it just continues to go down depending on how many K's what it means.
Clinically insane.
I'm just gonna keep that meme on my phone just as like a reference, so when I get a K, I'm like, oh. Which one is that?
Yeah. Let me look up the dictionary. No, but it's so important. Like we have these issues where it's like we've turned into like social interaction again, which is such a core concept. But it's like but because the internet is a well of information, it's like this infinite well that we can pull from infinitely. We think that relationships have to be the same thing. If I can go on Reddit and Reddit will serve me a new page every single time I refresh the page, and all of these people will sing my praises if I give a good answer, then I'm going to just assume that everybody's going to do the same thing. So when I interact with people in the real world and I say something and they're like, hey, I actually don't think that that's a good idea, or they just don't laugh at my jokes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Everybody starts hyperventilating because it's like, or the concept of the people, if you don't talk, the room stays silent. Yeah. It's like because there's no social interaction, because there's no like minimum noise quantity that's happening. Yep. It's like, why have we gotten so we lost it? We're gone. Like, what is? How do we turn back?
I think that's the best kind of relationship to have actually is when you can sit in a room with 3 or more people, or even 2 people, and you don't have to say a single thing, and everybody's perfectly content and everything is nice in that room.
Yeah, that's hard to find. Not hard to find. Once you find it, you hold on to those things kind of. But yeah, no, absolutely, those are my favorite. You know, being able to just spend time with somebody and not necessarily have to keep saying something is key. Like if you could just sit on a couch somewhere and just hang out. Nothing going on, and y'all are both very content with being there.
Or even like driving, like you talked a whole bunch, and then you don't like you can feel the vibe in the car. It's like, oh, this is perfect right now. Like everybody's just content. We're just chilling. We're just focused, and we're just heading forward. Not to get too far away, I do have a wonderful. What are you doing?
Eric took the camera. This is getting cut.
Just gotta get Benji on camera for once, but go ahead.
There we go. So talking about it, I have a rant to bring in on the last block because it's really relevant to my life and my I guess my gift set. Talking about not being taken advantage of and knowing how to work a relationship, and we'll get real personal in the last block. Does anybody else have anything to talk about before we cut?
Don't assume anything from anyone. Assumptions are so bad, and we make this joke. It's like, yeah, no assumptions, whatever. It's like, no, assumptions are actually a very non-healthy thing to have in any relationship. Yep. It's like, listen, I would much rather have somebody come to me and be like, hey, did you mean this thing, or did you mean it like this? And it's like, no, I meant it like that. And it's like, oh, okay, thank you. And that's also the way that I deal with my romantic relationships, I guess you could say, which is all like I don't really know how to address this subject, where it's like you make your feelings known, because it's just so much easier than going through all of the social constructs and everything like that. It's like, hey, listen, you want to do this? Yes, no, like let's move on with our lives. It's like,
text messages were originally meant to be short, sweet, and to the point.
250 characters, 140
characters was the original plan, and then we expanded it so that you could type like novels. And you know what that does is it opens up the realm for misinterpretation. It opens up the realms for assumptions. It opens up the realms for for spelling things wrong.
Or
you know what I mean?
Or even so, like Benji just said, and that's so important. I really not that I'm this big love guru either, but like to really have a fighting chance in a relationship, make everything known. Just say it right from the beginning. Say it exactly how it is. Say exactly how you feel, because life is too short. And if you want success in a relationship, especially a romantic one, talk about it. Always talk about it. You're gonna have disagreements, so talk about it now.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean like confess love. That's not what that means. It just means bring everything out to the open.
That's it.
You can't hide stuff.
You're not supposed to just tell people you love them the first time you meet them, Eric.
I love you, barista.
I love you, barista. but not to cut Eric off. But also, this side note, because we're gonna end this block in like 50 seconds. Also, as much as it hurts, there's so many people. Like this one individual, as much as you may enjoy them as a person and you might enjoy interacting with them, if they don't like interacting with you in a romantic sense, like it's okay. Like what is the like?
Let it go.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I like you as an individual. I would like to pursue a romantic relationship. This is a very formal way to say this, but
I love it. Yeah.
I would like to have I would like to have coitus with you. Please, can we court?
Yeah. It's all like, listen, I would like to pursue a romantic relationship. If that's not something that you like, that's fine. And then like that's it. Like, what is why have we gone so blindsided in social like interaction?
I said something in I do believe it was episode 2. It's like sentiment can be the thing that holds us to the anchor that drags us to the bottom of the sea. And it's so true where it's like those feelings, those emotions, those sentiments, that would be like, oh, well, I feel this way for you and I really want to have this romantic relationship. And they're like, oh, well, I just want to like chill and just be friends, or like I don't want to have anything at all. But it's those feelings, those emotions that just like cook you, because it's like I have to have this or nothing at all.
Yeah.
But I can't have nothing at all, so I just need to have this.
And respect people's boundaries too. Like if they say that they don't want to get in a relationship because they have this like, thing that they're going through, believe them. They're not lying. Don't be like, oh no, I can handle it.
It's not you, it's me.
It's not you. It's like, listen, if they gave you that heads up from the beginning, listen. Listen to it.
Well, I'm pretty sure if they use it's not you, it's me, I'm pretty sure it's you.
It's you.
Well, no, it's not. Yeah,
You are like, imagine being like, you're like socially incompetent. Like that's like, and I don't want to be in a relationship with you. And it's like, oh, okay, that's fine.
Because some stuff I need to work out.
Yeah.
And on that note, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned.
We're changing the name of the podcast to The Love Gurus.
Yeah, that's it. Three love gurus. All right, so
That's a joke, actually, but never mind.
Getting back to the actual, I guess, topic of the podcast, we were talking about drawing boundaries and really having healthy borders and boundaries so that we're not taken advantage of. And it's one thing to help somebody, and another thing to be taken advantage of. Just being very personal, I have decided to help an old friend of mine, help get him back on his feet, and this is something that's very, very pertinent and personal to me right now. So if I'm preaching to anybody, I'm preaching to me. And basically, when I took him in, I defined something right from the beginning. It's like, you're gonna be willing to do this thing right. You're gonna be proactive to get a job right away. You're going to be this, and this. You're not going to bring people to my house. You're not going to do any of these things. And if you break these lines, if you break these rules, that's it. I'm done. If you're an adult. You are a grown human being. I can't fully tell you what to do, but if you want to play the game the right way and you want to play with my help, that's how it is. And if you trespass any of these lines, then obviously there's going to be a result behind it. And we can see that in a lot of relationships. We were talking off the camera, and I'm just going to try to replicate what we were saying. But it's like, hey, listen, I'll help you, and we can do all these things, but here are the borders and boundaries. If you cross them, there's going to be big consequences. I don't know what they are, but there's going to be big consequences. Yeah. Hey, you're getting pretty close to the line. Hey, you're on the line. Hey, you're over the line.
Are you dancing on the line?
Yeah, like you crossed the line a long time ago. Like, hey. Hey, hey! But it's so true. Like, people, we try to even pretend to set boundaries that don't exist, or we set these vague boundaries, and people cross them. And Eric said on the podcast, numerous episodes ago, he's like, you can't get mad at people for crossing lines that have never been truly set. So what we need to do as far as that, it's like we need to clearly define our terms, just like when it comes to a relationship. Like, hey, listen, I love you, you love me, or I like you, you like me. I'm interested in you as a human being, and I want to invest my life in you. What do you say? What do you feel? Yes, no, not the check maybe box. It's like yes or no, black or white. Let's do this thing. And it's the same with helping people who are taking advantage of. It's like, here, I'm going to do this out of the kindness of my heart. I'm going to give it to you without any expectation or return, because that's the best way to give, is without having that expectation. Or if there are expectations, you lay it out on the table and say, hey, listen, I'm going to give to you, and I expect this in return. And if I don't receive all these pieces of the puzzle back so that it's a complete puzzle, then we shut this thing down. And or like personal space boundaries. If you cross into my personal space, that's it. This is grounds for cutting this short. And a lot of people let those lines get trespass, they get crossed, and then they just sit there and like, hey, stop, like, you crossed the line. But then we tolerate it, and then at that point it becomes your fault, not theirs.
Yeah, absolutely. Once you let somebody cross the line, and if you warn somebody, don't cross the line, and then they cross the line and you do nothing about it, you just pretty much told them that everything you're about to do is a joke.
Yep, I can't be taken seriously because I don't have enough of a backbone to stand up for myself.
They have no reason to respect you.
think of children. You know,
it's unfortunate, but yeah.
Human brains are the same. You know, they just filled with more information and more experience. You know,
grab that candy, Jibby.
Exactly. It's like when you're training children, and training people have like this big problem with like training children. It's like, no, you're training children. You're giving them. It's a very easy Polyakov's dogs type of situation where it's like, you do this right, you get a reward. If you do things wrong, you get punished. That's just how it works. That's how our brains work. It's like,
and you can't punish somebody unless it's defined.
Absolutely. You define a boundary. If you don't have a defined boundary, that's your problem. That's step one. But then if you have friends, you have relationships, you have coworkers, whoever you want to put in this situation, you define a boundary, they cross it, you have to do what you said that you were going to do. If you don't do that thing, then it invalidates everything else you're going to say, like Eric said.
You have no authority because you don't enforce that authority.
It's like, think of a military. Think of like a government. If a government doesn't do what it says that it does, or like a city,
poor America,
or like a city where it's all
San
like,
Francisco.
We're gonna do this thing. We have these laws, we have these rules, we have these regulations. Let's say like you're on the road and you're driving without a license. You get pulled over. If the cop doesn't take away the car, or you take you to
you're gonna do it again.
Yeah, you're gonna do it again because what's the point? What's the problem?
Yep.
It's like if ever we got a slap on the hand, you're like, no, little Jimmy, like no driving without a license. Okay, head on home now.
Drive home with that car.
Yeah,
right.
It's like that's not gonna help you.
Here's $5 for gas.
And that's like huge, and it's crazy to say, and even to think about, like, in comparing these things to children, but it's the same concept. Like, we are just giant children.
Yes.
At the end of the day, like, we came from that, and that's how we were trained growing up. So at our brain, in its very simplistic form, it is very simple. It's a reward system. You know what I mean? We do things that we are rewarded for, and we just it's rewarded in dopamine. You know what I mean? So rewards give you dopamine, and then punishment is the opposite, and that's how you differentiate good and bad. You know what I mean?
Look at Kobe. Look at my dog. Like, I knew right from the beginning. I mean, this dog especially, he came with some habits that were predisposed because he was already like a year and change old when I adopted him. But right away, like, I defined our relationship. I said, okay, I'm the master, you're the dog. These are the rules. You play by the rules. If you do good, you get rewarded. If you don't do good, there's going to be consequences. I determine it. And dogs are a lot smarter than you think they are too. Like, you can talk to a dog as a human being, and they understand exactly what you're saying. As far as some people can't grasp that concept, it's like, oh no, trigger words. It's like, no, you trained your dog to be on trigger words.
Yeah. It takes time, but yeah.
Whereas, like, okay, like the dogs get all bent out of shape because you sit outside. It's like, oh God, we gotta go outside. Yeah. My dog knows even inflection and voice. It's like, if I'm talking about outside or we're gonna go outside, two completely different things.
Yep,
but it's like, okay, well, I defined all those things right from the beginning. It's like, oh, buddy, like, don't beg for food at the table. It's like, but yet you sit there, you feed them food from the table. It's like, well, don't get mad at the dog if they're gonna, if they're gonna beg for
the dog's fault anymore.
That's it. And there are places, like, you can even skirt this line. Like, my dog doesn't beg for food at the table. I can take him out to a restaurant, and he knew right from the beginning. I said, okay, you lay down, and you lay down right next to me. This dog lays down, and just like, if you're gonna quote unquote beg, you lay down and you can just look up. You're not going to be in my lap. You're not going to have your face like in my plate. You can lay down and you'll get the reward after. And so after a while, like that Polyakov's dog, it's like, okay, well, now you know the reward of the good behavior, and you will get some of my food or you'll get some of this. But it's not like, okay, well, I can skirt the line because why do I have to be good if I can just get the reward anyway?
Yeah, absolutely.
In a smaller sense, this is also a business thing. People, and we're not going to get, I don't want to get into this too deeply, but people are like so bent out of shape with specifically capitalism in America. This is how this works. It's like, it's not about how, I deserve this position or whatever. It's like, no. Like, do what your boss says. That's it. That's all it is. It's like, and people sit next to it. They're like, why do you get these jobs? I was like, why do you get these? It's like, because I listen to the people. Like, what do you want me to say?
I play by the rules.
I play by the rules. I listen to what they say and I do what they ask me to do.
And if you're in a game that has messed up rules, think about the game that you're playing. Go play a different game.
And I think it's so important what Tyler said earlier is you can't punish somebody if you never defined it.
That's what I'm saying. If the rules are wishy-washy and you don't know exactly how to play, you kind of have a general idea, but you don't know the rules.
Yeah.
If you can't have the rules defined for you, get out of the game.
You're gonna lose. Yeah.
Get out because you're losing.
Yeah, you're gonna lose if you don't know the rules to the game. It's just like I love the game of poker. I really do. Because it's a really good representation of life.
I used to get bored and just lose on purpose so I could go drink. That was my incentive
Really
to
good
play poker.
representation of life.
Yeah.
You can really gauge people in.
I lose on purpose. Yeah.
And that's
I would just play with a nominal amount of money, you know.
Yeah.
Like, and like all my friends would still be playing. It's like, yeah, but I'm gonna be smarter than all you because I can go hang out and go in the basement and drink while you guys are stuck wasting your time up here playing poker
that's what I mean.
for
It's
pennies
perfect.
and peanuts.
It's perfect. But you could really read the table, and you could really get into and really see, like, if I see that, then I know exactly what this is. You know what
my
I mean?
psychological profile is showing.
But like, where was I going with that? I completely threw me through.
Tyler just ruined the whole
Sorry,
analogy.
I am so sorry.
wrecked.
It's time to go drink.
Right? No.
At 6 a.m. No, but
Well, coming from the guy who walks into the studio like, hey, my plan was to wake up this morning, take some shots, and be late for the podcast. It's like,
no.
did you just hear what you said?
Take some shots and make the joke that I would be late for the pod, but nonetheless.
Yeah.
God. Oh, and also there's things to predispose. So like not to backpedal on everything that we've just said, but there's also there's considerations that can be made for specific individuals. You know, nobody's going to be 100% of the time.
Listen, and there is a huge place for forgiveness. Talking about it, I'm just gonna get really, 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 really personal. But the friend that's staying with me, like on the day that I was going to give him a little extra rope, so like I didn't want to give him too much rope, so that he hung himself. Obviously, he comes from a tougher background, so it's like, okay, I haven't seen you in a long time. Like I know what you're capable of. I know who your character was.
Mm-hmm.
Now I just need you to prove to me now to give me some social credit, so that I know how far I can give you on my social credit system.
Yeah.
But it was like, okay, on the day that I wanted to give him a little extra, be like, okay, well, you can actually stay in my house today. You can, if you do this and this, wash all the windows. If you clean the bathroom, like, okay,
Yeah.
you don't have to be forced to like roam the city all day.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that, and I guess like he has this girl that he's been talking to for a while, and I in fairness, I probably told him to like don't bring any like degenerates to the house, but like he ended up having this girl meet him in the backyard, and they were talking whatever, and that really like broke my trust. It messed me up because I thought in my brain like the rule was like, okay, you don't bring anybody here, because that's really what my brain is. It's like you don't bring anybody here, and. We talked it out, and I mean there was consequences for the actions. Like I was like, okay, well now you can't like, I'm not gonna let you like just be able to like chill at the house and do those things. Like you have to go walk, like do whatever you want to do now, but you can't stay here for the day kind of thing. But there was a place for forgiveness because he was legitimate. He was sorry. There was a real repentance, and it was like, okay, well, like no, I'll let you I'll let you meet this person, and this is the deal. And there was a genuine exchange because there was miscommunication. It was like, okay, there was a place for forgiveness. It's like, all right, so yesterday it was like, all right, well now I'll give you the opportunity I gave you yesterday because we did clear this thing up. Like, okay, if you walk within these boundaries, you'll get this reward.
Yeah. That's huge, is miscommunication. I think it's a problem within business, it's a problem within friendships, it's a problem in your personal life, a problem everywhere. Miscommunication is just, it is something that as many tools as we've come up with to communicate with each other, we still suck at it.
Yeah.
And
people suck at forgiveness too.
well, yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. But I mean, you wouldn't have to, I don't think you would need to get so deep into the forgiveness part if the communication was better up front.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we take those things for granted too. Just like we talked about on the podcast, like being late. It's like it's social norm to just always be late, and that a time doesn't mean a time, and deadlines don't mean deadlines. So it's the same thing. It's like, oh, forgiveness is always just there and it's free, and everybody should just forgive me, even though I just like continually screw up, even if it's on a small scale all the time.
Yeah, and that's exactly. So if you keep doing the same mistake over and over again,
it's a choice.
You don't want forgiveness.
I saw this thing. It's like it's a mistake once, and then it's a choice. It's a proactive choice afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And but yeah, so the whole thing on miscommunication is, I'm a big firm believer of like not having expectations for people, because like we said very early into this show, not today, but an earlier episode, was everyone's going to pull for them. And I'm a firm believer in that, and I try not to hold expectations towards people unless I have clear expectations on like clear boundaries made, and I set like a standard. Then you can have the expectations that you're going to meet this standard. This is like the basis of every contract agreement ever made.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You can expect somebody to meet a contract when both of you have signed it, and not necessarily you don't have to sign a contract with your friends, but just being very clear and upfront about what you expect out of this friendship. You know what I mean? Like, it's just as simple as that. We expect things that have never really been clearly defined. You have one expectation of what a good friend is, and this person has an expectation of what a good friend is. Neither of those expectations line up with each other. That friendship is destined to fail.
Or even a love relationship. It's the same thing. It's like, like one person comes in with the expectation of like, oh, a wife should be like this, and then the other side says, oh, a husband should be like this. And
but they never talk about it.
Yeah,
they just keep those expectations in their own minds, and then the relationship doesn't work. And then they have arguments and all this stuff. Like, this could all be avoided with a simple communication. Is it awkward in the beginning? It could be if you let it be.
Deal with it.
But the more practice you do it, the easier it'll be to communicate how it is, what you expect out of people.
Mm-hmm. And people interact in different ways, and we're running up on the end of the show. But it's important to realize that the way that you communicate doesn't necessarily translate to the other people. You know, I've had a lot of interactions with people who don't like to interact. Like, they don't text, they don't talk on the phone, they just interact in person. Mm-hmm. And that's very weird for me as a person who interacts almost 100% online. You know, I my whole field is technical. You know, so interacting via email and text messaging and calling people is very normal to me, and for a lot of people it's not. And understanding that the person who you're interacting with might have a different form of communication than you do is very important to understanding where those boundaries lie. Because if I say I want communication, and to you that means, okay, we'll go sit and have a coffee, and to me that means I want a 5-minute phone call, I'm not going to get my 5-minute phone call, and you're not going to get your coffee shop. You know what I mean? And it's like understanding where those things are and where those boundaries are and how to communicate effectively between multiple people is very important.
Yeah, I think that was a great show, guys.
Yeah, not bad. So we'll be back here next week, and we'll see you later. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Life Podcast Show. We really appreciate all your support. We meet every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning just to talk and share our perspectives on everyday life situations. If you haven't already, please share this with your friends and give them a chance to join the conversation. Also, if you liked what you heard today, rate our podcast. The higher the rating, the longer we can keep this going. And a special thanks to our future sponsors that will soon partner with us on this journey. If anyone would like to contact us, please email us at thelifepodcastshow@gmail.com. One word. That's thelifepodcastshow@gmail.com. Be blessed and have a wonderful day.